along with some books I had read that I knew I didn't want to keep. But I do think most of these sound really interesting to me. So for today, anyway, this is a long ending that Hi everyone, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. For today's video, I am going to do a little book shopping on my own bookshelf. And this is kind of for two reasons thing, or three. One, I have a whole bunch of books that I have bought over, in some cases, the years, that I just haven't read. And I know I'm not alone in this. I see books, I want books. In the case of maybe Book Outlet, maybe I added a few randos because I was trying to get to a certain quotient to get my free shipping. But for whatever reason, I've bought these books, I've added them to my shelf, I wanted them for one reason or another, and I never read them. And I would like to read them. The second reason, I'm really trying to not spend money on new books. So rather than keep bringing new things in, I know I had posted a haul a couple weeks ago, which was like my Boxing Day, and that was it. Those are the last books I bought. I didn't buy a single book in January. There are some new books that I want, but I'm resisting temptation because I have things at home I can read. And also, I've been utilizing the heck out of my library, which is great because I'm not spending any money. The flip side is I am not reading the books that I already have. So what I want to start to do, not in any sort of like methodical way, but just start to chip away at the books that I already have. And I picked kind of a bunch off the shelf. This is not like, I don't have like hundreds of books. I don't know how many unread books I have, but they're just not organized in any kind of a way that makes it easy for me to find out. But I snagged a bunch of books, most of which I purchased last summer, and I want to start reading them. So I thought, let's go through a bunch. Let's figure out which one sounds the most exciting or the most interesting, and let's give it a go. So last summer, I went to Thriller Fest here in New York, and anytime I go to any kind of conference, whether it's like a writing conference or like an author event or whatever it is, I inevitably walk away with a whole bunch of books because either the author is there and their books are everywhere, or other authors are recommending them, or I get recommendations from other people at the conference, or you just start hearing things and it's like, I don't know, like my head just goes straight to that bookstore that they've got, and I need to have things, and it becomes like this compulsive desire to have souvenirs from a writing event. And it seems like what's a better souvenir than a book? So there's going to be a few things that I can attribute to that. And the first one is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. Now, I have not read any Karen Slaughter books. She was there. I've heard tons of great things about her. I'm fascinated. I'm intrigued. I just haven't picked it up. No excuse, no good reason. I have heard a lot of reviews where people say this is like their favorite book of hers. I've heard a lot of people say that this is really dark and disturbing, and there's violence against women, and it's hard to read. I've talked about this before. I read a lot of like the Patricia Cornwell books, and I mean, those are pretty graphic. She goes deep. I've read a lot of Linda Fairstein books. She's, the ADA and the sex crimes, and those obviously get pretty graphic. So I think I can handle the graphic nature of it, but I just haven't picked it up yet. And this is about two sisters, Claire and Lydia, and a third sister of theirs who went missing when she was a teenager. And these two sisters, it seems to be like they're pretty estranged. Claire's kind of living the glamorous life. Lydia's kind of a single mom. Dating an ex-con, she's struggling, and then Claire's husband is murdered. So sort of millionaire murder, disappearing teen, I guess they're forced back together again. All sorts of secrets are going to come out. So this is one of the books I haven't read. So here we go, book number one. The second book I have is Defending Jacob by William Landay. And I checked before I started filming. This book came out in 2012. Yes, I have the hardcover. Yes, I bought it when it was new. And I started to read it when I first got it, and I just couldn't get into it. And it happens, but at the same time, I knew that this was an interesting enough story that I didn't get rid of it. And I have just sort of had it with me ever since, and I've never revisited it. And this book is about an attorney. He lives in suburban Massachusetts. His name is Andy. And his son, Jacob, becomes put on trial for murdering a classmate. And Jacob is 14. And amazingly, I haven't heard much about this story, even though it was like a huge bestseller and kind of everywhere. I've managed to sort of stay off the grid of any kind of spoilers. My understanding is that, you know, it's kind of like there's all sorts of evidence that stacks up against Jacob and Andy as his father is sort of faced with, you know, coming to terms with, you know, defending his son and believing his son is innocent, but also dealing with the fact that sort of all this evidence points at him and he doesn't really know his son at all. So I think there's a lot of family drama to it. I imagine there's, you know, a legal aspect to it, which kind of reminds me of John Grisham, which I feel like this maybe was compared to at some stage of the game. So I'm still interested in the story. I refuse to let this go without giving it another shot. I just haven't given it that shot yet. So last summer I went on like a silly book buying haul of like a whole bunch of hardcover books that I basically didn't know much about, but I was like looking for something to read. And meanwhile, I don't think I've read any of these books. This is horrible. And one of the books is The Flight Attendant by Chris Balian? Bahalain? Balian? I don't know. I'll look it up. Awful. But this is a thriller in the unreliable narrator vein, and this is about a woman named Cassie, who's the flight attendant, and she's an alcoholic, and she blacks out, and she's a liar, and I think she's like a thief, so she sounds like a hot mess. And she wakes up in her hotel room in Dubai and has to, you know, get up and get on the plane and go back to work, and she kind of rolls over in bed, and there's the guy she spent the night with, because she's also the queen of the one-night stand, except this time he's dead. And she doesn't know what the hell happened last night. So she gets on the plane, she lies to everyone. I don't know what kind of like tale she spins. The police get involved. She doesn't know if she did it. She doesn't know if she didn't do it. She has no idea what happened. It sounds like a little girl on the train with, you know, the alcoholic unreliable narrator bit, but I'm a sucker for the unreliable narrator story. So I picked it up. Tons of great things have been said about it. I'm pretty sure Jessica Biel either like her production company like bought the rights to make the movie, or she's supposed to be in the movie or something like that. But I do want to read it. I am interested in the story. Like all of these books, no excuse for why I haven't read it yet, but I'm holding it, which means I haven't read it. The next book is a result of a writer's conference I went to 2 years ago that was recommended on a panel. I'm such a sucker. And this is The Long and Far Away Gone by Lou Berney. And this was touted as like a great mystery. You know, I write down all these things, I pick them up afterwards, and then I didn't even read anything about this book. And then I got it, and I was like less interested after I got it, but I still haven't let it go because there's a bunch of authors that said to read it. So this is about sort of the aftermath, kind of 25 years later. So in the summer of 1986, I'm reading it, 2 tragedies rocked Oklahoma City. 6 movie theater employees were brutally killed in an armed robbery. Then a teenage girl vanished from the annual state fair, and neither crime was ever solved. And this brings together kind of the boy who survived the movie theater, and then the girl who I think is the sister or cousin, sister of the girl who disappeared. And for whatever reason, they're kind of brought together for something that happens in present day and forced to confront the things of the past. So it sounds interesting. I just kind of, again, I'm a big mood reader, and I've never been in the mood for it, so I bought it. I've heard great things about it. I kind of refuse to let it go for those reasons, but I don't know. So this is on my list. The next book is another auto-buy author of mine, and this is Between You and Me by Alison Wynne Scotch. And I love her writing. I've read all of her books. I really enjoy her stories about, you know, relationships and love and friendships and sort of the complexities. And she does a lot of, you know, how the past influences the present and sort of looking back on the past. And her first book, The Time of My Life, it has a woman, not to go off topic on this one, but I am for half a second, a woman who sort of wakes, lives in the present day, and she's married and she has a great job and she has a kid, and sort of feels like something's missing, and goes to bed one night and then wakes up 7 years ago where she was single and hadn't met her husband and obviously hadn't had her kid and was in a different relationship. And she lives sort of in both these worlds, but in her past she has the 2020 knowledge of the current day, but can choose sort of her decisions knowing what the outcome was the first time round. And I love the idea of getting to sort of, do it all over again if you knew then what you know now. And that kind of made me fall in love with her. And this book, like I said, instant buy for me. So picked it up. Obviously I haven't read it. And this is about a couple, Ben and Tatum. So Ben is a screenwriter. Tatum was a struggling actress. They meet in New York. They fall in love. And we sort of fast forward 10-ish years. And now Tatum is like a huge star actress, but Ben's star as the screenwriter has fallen. And they're in this marriage and grappling with sort of stardom and fame and how that's affected everything. And of course it is, how the past can influence the present, and they're sort of at this crossroads. So this one is told in 2 different time frames. So it's told with Ben in the present tense, and then it's told with Tatum in the past. And, can they sort of get back together again, and can they fix things, and can they lean on sort of what made them fall in love in the past and brought them together and kind of save their relationship in the present day. So I love a good relationship story. I love a good, sort of hopeful story, but also, not everything is picture perfect and not everything is great. So I love the complexities and the struggles and the complications of relationships. And I just love her writing and storytelling. The next book is another Thriller Fest, Thriller Fest Made Me Do It book, and that's Pretty Nasty Lovely by Rosalind Noonan. And this is like the tagline at the top is like, they're not your friends. This is about a girl, Emma, who pledges Theta Pi and sort of goes through the sorority pledging, and everybody's great and everybody's fine. And then like once she's in, the script flips, and it's bullying and it's manipulation, and one of the sisters apparently commits suicide, and it's all sort of the ugly side of Greek life. And everybody's got secrets, and Emma's got secrets, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. Loyalties are tested. How far will she go to protect the secrets, and how far will she go to protect herself? So I will admit, I was a sorority girl. I'm a sucker for a sorority story. Those Lifetime sorority movies are amazing. They're so horrible. They're amazing. But there's just something about this. For one, I thought the cover was really cool. And it's what kind of grabbed me to it. And then, it's like me in a high school story. Give me some college and give me some Greek life, and I'm down with that too. So this one, as I was kind of rereading it at this stage, is maybe leading the pack for which one I might start with, but totally obscure, never heard of this author before, never knew anything about this before. So again, Thriller Fest made me do it. The next book is one I've mentioned before, and it's What Alice Forgot by Leanne Moriarty. And I read Big Little Lies and I read The Husband's Secret, and I loved them both. And kind of after I read Big Little Lies, I snatched up a bunch of her books when I found them like on sale or what have you, but I haven't read this. I haven't read The Anniversary Party, and I got 9 Perfect Strangers, I think that's what it's called, at Christmas, and I haven't read that one yet either. But here we are. This one I've heard a lot of really good stuff about, and I'm really intrigued with the story, and it's kind of like sort of like the Alice in Winscotch in the sense. So Alice is like newly married, and I think just finds out she's pregnant, and then she kind of wakes up on the floor of the gym, and she's like, why am I here? I hate the gym. What's happening? And it's 10 years later, and she's got several kids, and she's getting divorced, and she has no memory of what happened in those 10 years. So here's a woman trying to piece together her present, not really remembering her past. And I love the idea of it. Again, what would you do if your life 10 years from now is never anything you ever would have imagined, and you have no idea kind of what led up to it. So I have huge faith in her writing. I have huge faith in her storytelling, and I'm excited for this one. I keep saying it. There's no good reason I haven't read it. I haven't read it yet, and I want to. So this is on the list. The last book is also part of the hardcover buying binge spree extravaganza, and it's Best Friends Forever by Margot Hunt. And this is another psychological thriller. I was sucked in by the concept. I was sucked in because Alifair Burke did a blurb on it. So if you haven't already seen my author spotlight on her, spoiler alert, I love her. So that kind of got me. And this is a story about two women who are best friends, and it's Kat and Alice. And sort of a little bit of the concept gives me kind of Last Mrs. Parrish vibes and like Simple Favor vibes. So Kat's the artsy socialite. Alice is the struggling suburbanite. They are, each other's friends. They're each other's rocks. They drink their wine. They have their cocktails, all this good stuff. And this is where it's not like either one of those books, so don't worry, I'm not ruining anything. Howard, Kat's husband, who is a drunk and a jerk and a bully, apparently like falls off his balcony or is pushed off his balcony or something sinister on his balcony, and he dies. And all of a sudden, the police investigation starts, and Kat has like cut Alice off, and suddenly Alice is the main suspect in all of this, and she doesn't know like what the hell's going on and where's her best friend, and holy crap, like, am I in trouble for this? Am I going to take the fall for this? So it's about friendship. It's about how I think horrible women can be sometimes. I think there's loyalty. There's obviously trust issues. But it sounds really interesting to me. And I love these complicated stories and these complex relationships, whether they're romantic or friendship. And I'm intrigued. And also Margot Hunt has a new book out, or it's not new, it's in paperback now, For Better or Worse. And it's kind of like this couple who, I guess like in law school, kind of joked around about like how to, I don't know if it was like plot a perfect murder, and now all these years later they might need to execute on it. And I really want to read that book, but I feel like I should read her first book first because, for one, I own this and I'm trying not to buy another book. But I'm really interested in her writing. I'm interested in this story. And, here we go. This is the last book I have on my list. So those are the books I pulled off the shelf to pick from. And I feel like a lot of them sound really good. Kind of rereading the little blurbs on them again, my antenna's up a bit. Honestly, I think I might start with either Best Friends Forever or Pretty Nasty Sorority, whatever that one was called. They both just sort of sound like good reads, quick reads, good stories. So we'll see. I'm in the mood for something a little bit dark right now. I just finished The Marriage Pact, which was kind of a dark book. So I feel like I want to stay in the dark place. I don't know what that is all about, but we'll save psychoanalysis for another day. But I would love to know if you guys have read any of these books, if you think any of them should sort of be bumped higher on the list, or if you've read any of them and you think like, meh, like not really worth the time or not really a priority. For sure, let me know. And I know a lot of people do those like read a chapter and then decide, and I've never been good at stuff like that, which is not to say that I shouldn't try it again, but I don't know, maybe I could do something like that. But let me know if you've read any of them. Let me know what you think. And then I'm in no way trying to like read everything on this list right now, but what I want to at least try and do is, at least be like 50-50 with reading stuff I own versus reading stuff I'm getting from the library. And with very few exceptions, like an auto-buy author for me, I am really going to try to like not buy anything unless it's a case of like I read the library book and I'm gonna get my own copy of it because I love it, like Beartown. So anyway, that's a lot about stuff that's not even relevant here. So let me know what you think of these books, and let me know if anyone else is also like not buying, but like shopping your own shelves and trying to chip away at your own TBRs. And we can talk about it in the comments. So thank you guys for hanging out today and listening to me talk at random about some random books, and I will see you back here really soon. Bye, everybody.